Good morning. My name is Patricia Devine, and I am a member of the Worship and Music Committee. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Welcome to First Parish Plymouth Virtual Summer Services. The first part of our service is recorded, and this will be posted to our Facebook page and to YouTube. During the summer, our services will be lay-led and will begin at 9 a.m. There will be no coffee hour. On August 22nd and 29th, our services will then be led by our minister, Reverend Arthur Lavoie. Our service leaders today are Linda Harding and Nicolette Chasse. Our technical director is Paul Melville. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever you believe, wherever you are on your journey, come walk with us this hour. Let us walk together this hour.
Morning, everyone. Our call to worship today is the poem A Butterfly Emerging by Gerald London. A butterfly emerging from the silken veil of her cocoon. Pieces of it are clinging to her wings like sleep. She becomes aware that she's not what she used to be. She has wings. The ground no longer holds self-consciousness for her. The air is no longer her restraint. The sky, she's no longer shy of it. Life gave her wings. She's meant to fly and to return. Our opening hymn today is Rising Green, a recording by the very talented woman of our own First Parish Choir.
Please join me for the chalice lighting. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and freedom, to speak the truth and to help one another.
Well, good morning, my friends. That was a beautiful hymn done, lovely, just done, just a beautiful hymn sung by our choir. I'm going to start on a lighter note. I know my topic is fear of emerging. On the internet, maybe you've seen all kinds of jokes about Armageddon. Have you heard this one? I can't stop watching doomsday films like The End of the World, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Dawn of the Dead, WALL-E. It's like there's no tomorrow. Ba-dum-bum. Well, I thought and hoped that after the presidential election, things would return to normal. When the rhetoric after the election was that the election was fraudulent, and the chaos and threats from the acting president and his loyalists started and are continuing, I keep thinking democracy is hanging on by a thread. And I keep looking for evidence that that might be true, seeking historians, journalists who believe the same and are pointing to how democracy could be in danger. And when I'm listening to MSNBC, that makes me anxious. And when I turn on Fox, that makes me fearful. I'm an anxious person anyway. When approaching uncertainty, I can imagine all the myriad of choices and possibilities that could result in an Armageddon. For instance, what if America's supply chain was broken down due to an extreme weather crisis? How would we get enough to eat during that time period? Or what if Russian hackers took down the internet and the cloud storage? Would I lose access to my life savings at Fidelity? What if Americans can no longer find common ground to live together peacefully? Would we have a civil war? All these scenarios seem possible in my mind. Too many doomsday films, I think. This summer's worship service is on emergence. Instead of wanting to emerge, honestly, sometimes I'd rather not leave the house. I'm worried and anxious a lot. I'm out of practice with socializing, and I'm often not a fun person to be around. I'm just way too serious. I know as I'm laughing, I'm way too serious and intense. But I don't think I'm alone. It seems like anxiety is a fairly common reaction to what's going on in our world today. COVID, politics, Black Lives Matter, climate change, and all the unprecedented chaos that's happening around us. So I know we have choices. You know we have choices. In feeling anxious, instead of putting the covers over my head, I have to remind myself there's other options. And those options, the power lies in being mindful and being aware first of what I am experiencing: doubt, confusion, anxiety, worry, concern. Richard Zinbarg, I was reading an article, Richard Zinbarg, who's a PhD in psychology, asked a question in one of his blogs. Might your anxiety be an emblem of your spirituality? Wow, that's a different thought and approach. He says that there's one type of anxiety that can help motivate us to keep our priorities in order and live in accordance with our higher values. He refers to it as sacred anxiety. It's transcendental. It's spiritual. sacred anxiety, the tensions we feel if there's a separation from our community or when we're sensing our own mortality. It's there to tell us, pay attention, wake up, do something. Seems like there's so many dangers currently, so much unknown, that confusion, worry are an appropriate response. However, so I'm not saying I'm burying myself in my house and not coming out. I know that being anxious all of the time would cause a huge mental health crisis. If I lose my moral compass or I lose my mind, I certainly would lose my friends. Knowing that cost alone is motivation enough to wake up and do something and take actions to move forward and emerge. Common sense, right? Well, the reality is I've never faced a life and death situation as others have. For example, do you remember McKinley Jackson? He was a frequent visitor to our worship services and a member of First Parish. Now, McKinley was a Black man, he was gay. He'd often attend with his partner, Ed. Now, being gay and Black in America, now there's something to be anxious about. McKinley shared with me one time that when he was walking down a country road in Indiana, he saw an apple tree at the side, climbed the fence to grab a piece of fruit, and someone across the farm started shooting at him. He said he'd never been so fearful as he ran for cover, and bullets whizzed past him. He then remarked, "Imagine that, killing a man over an apple," and just shook his head. Well, McKinley, we've been really fortunate. About 30 years ago, he moved to Sagamore Beach. He became a co-founder of the Plymouth Men's Group, which was a weekly meeting for gay men to talk openly about their concerns, their lives. He was a volunteer at many community organizations. So the Community Service Industry, AIDS Support Group, the Food Pantry of Cape Cod, and he participated in our overnights of hospitality program that we sponsored or help support the homeless here in Plymouth. McKinley organized Parting of Ways, which was the first ceremony to honor and recognize the 4 African-American Revolutionary War soldiers who were buried in Plymouth. All during his adult life, he lived with AIDS. He died in 2014, a complication of AIDS. I would describe him as courageous, unstoppable, a man who lived by his convictions. He was not controlled by his fears. The memory of who he was inspires me. Here's a man that knew each day could be his last. Each day was a gift, and he was going to make the most of it. He approached his fears through trust and faith and love for his community. Have you ever heard the poem by Robert Francis called The Swimmer? Actually, it's just called Swimmer. And Jean Lane was just talking about swimming. So Swimmer reminds me of McKinley. So I'd like to share it with you. So quickly, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and you let your breath out slowly. Swimmer by Robert Francis. Observe how he negotiates his way with trust and the least violence, making the stranger friend, the enemy, ally. The depth that could destroy gently supports him. With water, he defends himself from water. Danger he leans on, rests in. The drowning sea is all he has between himself and drowning. So in reality, in reflection, I am blessed in so many ways to be a part of a church community where members act on their sacred calling to right a wrong. You inspire me. The members of this congregation inspire me to stand up for my own beliefs, to rely on faith and not live in fear. And I would define my faith as that every kind act reverberates and pushes away fear and hate, and that love can heal an aching world. So each day I have a choice to make, and maybe you do too. I can worry about Armageddon, or I could take one action today to help heal the world. And like the hymn, rising green to bring a new day. Blessed be.
Hi, everyone. Linda, that was absolutely beautiful. I'm so thrilled and honored to be doing this service with you today. So I think we can all agree that the past year has been interesting, to put it mildly. It has been a challenging year, for sure. We went from being able to live our regular busy lives where we got to see our loved ones, our coworkers, our friends on a daily or at least regular basis to being completely isolated for months on end. It wasn't easy. Humans are meant to be with each other. We're social creatures, and in the end, we crave the company of others. And yes, that includes the most introverted among us, of which I'm certainly one of them. There was a lot of pain, depression, fear, and anger over the past year. All of us faced hardship in ways that are completely new to us. This was a once in a century event. Almost literally the last time the world has seen something like this, like the pandemic, was during the Great Spanish Influenza at the beginning of the 20th century. And as we approach, not the end, perhaps, given the prevalence of new variants, but at least a turning point where the world is opening up, we find ourselves opening with it. Emergence. It's an appropriate theme for this summer's services as we find ourselves emerging into the strange new reality we find ourselves in. The poem I selected for the call to worship, perhaps it would have been appropriate for springtime as well, given butterflies are a symbol of spring. But the words of the poem spoke to me. The concept of the butterfly emerging from its cocoon with the gossamer threads of that cocoon hanging onto the wings, not being encumbered by the ground anymore, not being intimidated by the sky. That was something that really spoke to me when I was thinking about the past year and theme of emergence. Because when I was at home alone during the first part of the pandemic, I had a lot of time to think. I think a lot of people did. There was a lot going on. While the world was shut down, or it felt like it at least, there were protests going on, anti-racism protests to fight for a better world and honor of those who were subject to the deadly violence of white supremacy and systemic racism. I spent a lot of time reflecting on what it meant to be a white colonizer living on stolen land. I studied, I listened to the voices of people whose lives are so very different from my own, from philosophers to activists, from Marcus Aurelius and Descartes to Mickey Kendall and bell hooks. I sought out the experiences and perspectives of those who embody love, from the selflessness of medical professionals who were sleeping in the garages to not infect their family, or were sleeping in the hospital to provide good care to the first patients to come down with COVID when we had no idea what this disease meant, to the brave activists risking their protest injustice, to those selfish enough to refuse to wear masks because those small scraps of fabric, no bigger than 3 by 7 inches, provided a minor inconvenience to their lives, even if it could save countless others. How would I emerge? I chose hope. I emerge with hope for a better world. Though progress has been slow, the amount of COVID deaths have drastically reduced where large portions of people have embraced science and basic reason and have gotten the vaccine. And there is so much hope for those of us who have been able to embrace their loved ones. I actually got to see friends who I haven't seen in a year and a half for the first time a couple of weeks ago. And the hope and the joy that I felt being able to hug my friends again, it was incredible. It was a healing balm to my soul to be able to emerge from this pandemic and see the people I care about again. I emerge seeking justice. And I know what you all are thinking. Oh, there goes Nicolette talking about justice again, but hear me out. Hear me out. I'm not talking about the legal system here, but true justice. One that, quite frankly, looks a lot like the 7 principles of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I emerge with a better awareness about treating people with compassion and equity. I emerge into a better understanding of the complexity of the world that we live in and the hope that we can make it better. I emerge into the embrace of the principles of democracy, even though we see it being threatened all around us with unjust voting laws and the quibbling of, and the, quite frankly, undemocratic actions of people who swore to protect democracy in our government. I emerge with the respect of the inherent dignity and worth of every single person, even though I disagree with, and there are a lot of people I disagree with. I emerge with love for my fellow human beings and the world we live in. And as I emerge into this strange and changed world, armed only with my words, which admittedly I am certainly not lacking in. I literally talk for my living. My compassion and my hope. I ask you all this. How are you emerging at this strange transitional and liminal phase we find ourselves in? Will you rise to the challenge that awaits us with challenges to the very fabric of our existence, to our world, to our democracy? Will you embrace the pain and the lessons of the past year and grow from them? How are you emerging? And how can we together make this world that we live in a better and brighter one than the one that we're currently emerging into now? I choose to emerge with hope. I choose to emerge with kindness. I choose to emerge with light itself. And I hope that you all come with me. Thank you. Amen, and blessed be. Our closing hymn, I can pull up my copy of the order of service, if my computer cooperates, is La Vulgaios, performed by our very own Jean Pace.
Love Wow. In pace. Huh.
I'm like to offer this benediction to you. Life is short and we don't have much time. I'm going to begin again. Life is short and we don't have much time to gladden the hearts of those who make the journey with us. So be swift to love and make haste to be kind. And the blessings of the universe who travel with us be with you. Blessed be. Amen.
Mhm.